Welcome back, everybody. It is July 1st of 2024, and this is episode 67 of What Is On My Desk. So welcome back, everybody, to another one of my monthly What Is On My Desk updates. I've got progress to show you. All 4 kits have progress done on them. We are getting very close to the painting stages on that. So we'll get swung over here soon, take a look at what we've got going on there. And I just got back from the Quinte International Airshow. I was out there yesterday. I'm actually filming this on the June 30th, on the Sunday, to be ready to release on Monday, July 1st. So yesterday I was in Quinte. I drove down Friday morning, spent the day outside the fence on Friday taking pictures, and then in the show in the photo pit on Saturday. Unfortunately, Saturday had some really garbage weather and not much at all flew. But I was able to get some swag, so I have some pictures. I have some things to show you for that. So we'll get swung over. We'll take a look at that stuff. And new for now, I mean, it's been on the channel for a little bit for those who have noticed down below, but I have some merch available. I'm wearing, this is the Putting the A in Aviation shirt. So you can get that. I also have my official airshow hat. I actually forgot to take this to Trenton with me. All of that's down below. Take a look. I do plan on getting some more stuff as I go. I'm going to come up with some new designs, some stuff out, potentially some limited edition stuff if we but yeah, so that's all going to be coming up soon. So if you do want some of that merch down below, take a look. If you have ideas for merch, by all means, let me know. And yeah, let's jump right into this video. So we'll get swung over. We'll take a look at that swag from Trenton, as well as the progress on the 4 kits. And as always, my name is Sean, and this is Sean's Aviation. So here we are at the desk taking a look at the swag I got at the Quinte International Airshow. Now, there wasn't a lot. Normally, this kind of stuff you get from American units. There isn't as much overseas stuff. The Frecce Tricolori had a tent set up in the one hangar. By the time I got there, they had nothing left, but apparently they were just basically giving away posters and stuff. But I got there later in the day and they had nothing left available. I'm gonna have to poke around online and see if they do have a North American tour coin available somewhere. And I missed out. Apparently the CF-18 demo coin was for sale, but I didn't see it. But I did get a few other things. And again, there wasn't a lot of American stuff. Usually it's the Americans that have the coin and the coins and the swag and stuff, but they didn't have a lot. All they had on display was a New York Air National Guard LC-130 Ski-Bird, and then a T-1 Jayhawk. And the crew for that wasn't even present on Saturday. So I didn't get much total. I did get a few cool things. So the first one I got here was, I'll zoom in so you can take a good look at what I'm showing you. So this is a 424 Search and Rescue Squadron. This is the Search and Rescue Squadron that's based at Trenton, and they fly Hercs and they fly the CH-146 Griffin. So on this side, you got the 2 aircraft types with the squadron crest, and on the back, you got the Tiger, which is kind of their units. It's the same. You can see there's the stylized Tiger inside the crest. So they are, the Tiger is kind of their squadron motto or motif, and they have it in here. It's really nice. It's a full enamel picture with a clear coat on top. So I'm sure this is not inexpensive to make, and it looks really nice. But that's a good addition. Like I said, I've got 433 Squadron, 410 Squadron. Now I've got 424 Squadron. I've got a couple of other ones. I think I got 438 Squadron. 430 Squadron, sorry, 430 Squadron. So I'm starting to get a good collection of a number of different RCAF squadrons. They're harder to find than most US stuff. They tend to have a lot more. Twin Otter, that was on display. I asked about their coin. They said they actually sold out earlier this year, which was a little annoying. But the other one I got here was 426 Squadron. On this side here, you can see their squadron motif, which is the a Thunderbird, a West Coast native Canadian indigenous symbol, basically, is what they named it after. And you can see their motto here is "On Wings of Fire." So that's that. On the other side is just a simple RCAF crest. It is a numbered coin, which is interesting. You don't see a lot of numbered coins. Yeah, so they had these for sale as well. So of course I grabbed one. 426 has got a bit of a soft spot in my heart. I don't know why. I just enjoy 426 Squadron has an interesting history. And anyways, got their coin, which was a nice addition to the collection. And then finally the LC-130 Ski Bird, as I said, from the New York Air National Guard, and they do mostly Antarctic support for their missions and whatnot. So their coin is actually Antarctica. And on this side, you can see the LC-130, and then it's got the bottle opener on the one side as well, built into it. And then on that side, obviously it's the reverse, but it's got the little squadron kind of logo down here, the crest, the LC-130H, and then it says the 138th, 139th Airlift Squadron, New York Air National Guard. So that's cool. I like these weird shaped coins. They make for interesting views on the shelf. So I add that to the collection as well, which is, you know, just another one to add. So nothing too crazy, but those were the 3 coins I picked up in Trenton. I kind of wished I got a bit more, but you could only do so much. And then in terms of kit progress, I have got quite a bit of progress on the kits. I will take a look at that 148 scale Kate. And the fuselage is pretty much ready to go. You see, I've got a coat of primer on it to check seams. I'm pretty happy with how the seams look. This section of cockpit is just temporarily white glued in place for painting purposes to protect the innards. The actual canopy pieces are here, and they'll be built with the canopy open once everything is painted. So I've cleaned up, the wing root seams have been cleaned up, and then this section here where the forward fuselage fits on. It's not perfect. In reality, I should have glued these 2 halves to the fuselage halves before I assembled the fuselage, and that would have made only a top seam to deal with and the bottom seam to deal with instead of this round seam. Can't be perfect every time. But this I'm pretty happy with. I've got the coat of primer on it, as I said, and I'm pretty much going to leave it as is. And very soon I'll start painting. And then the outer wing panels are here. I finished the last bit of sanding on those. They just need a coat of primer, and then I'm going to start painting. So as soon as this is ready to go, I'm going to start completing the part 1 of the time lapse on this one. So they should be out within the next month or so. And there's a little bit here I got to clean up. There's a little bit of a seam here on this wing root. I'm gonna have to put just a tiny amount of putty on there and a little bit of sanding just to blend that together, but that's about it. And then the painting on this is gonna be pretty complicated. I gotta paint the whole rear fuselage tail area white, then paint it red, then mask that off, then paint the lower gray color, and then paint the top green color, and then mask that off and paint the black that goes around on the nose section. So it's a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 color sequence. It's gonna take a bit of time to get it together, but shouldn't be too hard. It's one of the easier kind of paint schemes I've done in terms of a complicated paint scheme. It's one of the easier ones, so it shouldn't take me too long to get going once I get started. But that is that. And then we'll look at the Hurricane. This is the 124 scale Hasegawa Hurricane. I am building this as the Vintage Wings of Canada Mark 12, and it is for the pilot who flies the Vintage Wings of Canada Mark 12. So I'm doing it for him, so I have the aftermarket decals and everything, and as you can see, it's almost ready for primer. The only real thing I have to worry about is masking off the cockpit and masking off the wheel wells, and then there's a little bit of cleanup I got to do back here on some Mr. Surfacer, and then it's pretty much ready for primer. And then once I'm happy and I get to check the seams and I'm okay with it, then I can start painting the camo patterns. It's a bit of a complicated one too. It's got a sky wing, the lower fuselage is half sky, half black. And then I'll have to figure out the order of operations for under here, especially with the radiator housing and all that's got to be figured out, and the intake's got to be figured out. But we're getting closer and closer to that. The other big issue I have is the cockpit. Normally, as you saw with the Kate, I just glue the canopy on and paint it, and then that's how I do it. This is a little harder because I planned for the side door to be open, so I can't really do that. And then when you close the canopy, first of all, you've got the big opening here I have to worry about. Second of all, you can see the rear fuselage through this rear part of the canopy. So I need, even if I want, I can't just plop the canopy on and paint because you're going to see through to this unpainted section. So I really have 2 options. I can either paint this area, pre-paint this area, then install the canopy, then paint the rest. and then hope that it looks okay, or I have to mask it all off without the canopy, and that's going to involve some pretty finicky masking around this armor plate, and then filling in all the space with Kleenex and tape so that I can paint it with this canopy as a separate piece. And I'm not entirely sure which route I'm taking yet. I'll deal with that as I start the process. But then, yeah, it's pretty much ready for paint. So again, as soon as this is primed and everything is ready to paint, I will complete part 1 of the time lapse for that. Moving on to the YB40. It's starting to get big and awkward. The wings aren't glued in place yet. They are just slid in place. A, so that I have a place to put them, and B, it helps balance the model when it's on the stand. When the wings are off, the whole thing is a little tail heavy. So editor Sean here. Apologies for the sound quality. I'm having some serious issues with my lapel mic and I can't figure out why. So I'm going to do a voiceover for the rest of this video and hopefully line it up as best as I can. So with these wings, the one thing I still have to do is work along the trailing edge and the leading edge and clean up some sanding marks. And you'll see here I'm pointing out that right wing sits back a little too far, so I'm gonna have to notch the little locking tabs on the inside, and hopefully that allows that wing to slide forward far enough that it's an easy fix with the wing roots. And I've got a little bit of cleanup to do there on the nose chin turret. There's a little bit of Mr. Surfacer I have to clean up as well here on the tail. There's a little bit of sanding I still need to do and clean up out there. Otherwise, I just have to mask off the tail wheel, and then it's gonna be ready for primer. And then I'm going to paint it. The horizontal stabs still have to go on. I'm pretty sure I'm going to glue the wings and the stabs in place before I do final paint. And then overall, the paint is going to be pretty heavily weathered. I'm going to do olive drab overall, and then lighten it and do control surfaces, and then darken it and do some highlights. I also have, I've got regular olive drab, and I'm going to lighten that. And then I've also got dark olive drab that I can use. But these wing roots are going to be interesting. I'm not sure if I'm going to paint and then assemble, or assemble it and then paint everything after. But there you can, I'm talking about how I want to paint and lighten up the colors and do the control surfaces, the ailerons and the elevators and the rudder, a lighter olive drab, and then go along with the dark olive drab and pick out some panel lines around that turret area where the modification was made, some other panels. The center of the vertical tail gets the darker color. You see that in a lot of pictures. And then now I'm going to pretty heavily weather it, make it look like it was a used heavy bird. Now, the one thing I still have to figure out is markings. I have a few extra B-17 decals kicking around. I'm probably going to use my Cricut and make some vinyl masking, which will allow me to do some of the squadron codes as well as a little bit of the nose art, but I'm not entirely sure yet. I'm going to have to go through my decals and see kind of what I have and what I'm going to need to make up. So moving on, we'll take a look at the Lincoln. So here's what it looks like now. It doesn't look very different from last time, but there's just a little bit I've done. There's still a bit of sanding there at the back of the bomb bay I need to work on and clean up. But the big thing are these strengthening strips along the side. They exist on the real aircraft. It's actually the floor inside the main longeron that goes down the side of the plane. You can see that sticking out slightly on the outside of the fuselage, and then you'll see where I put that resin plug, and when I sanded the seams, it created waves, and that strip disappeared a little bit. So I recreated it using some strip plastic, cut it to the right size, glued it on, sanded it just a little bit to knock off the edges and give it a slightly more scale thickness, and then I used Mr. Surfacer. Use Mr. Surfacer all around it to clean up any gaps or seams. And then I also started to rescribe here part of the panel lines, and all the primer just peeled right off of the plastic. It's an issue I've had with this primer in the past, and I'm going to have to figure out where I go in the future with primer, because this primer has had problems where it doesn't stick to the plastic very well. I have the Tamiya primer, but it has a really bad smell, and I don't like using it when the kids are in the house. So I still have to figure out a new primer going forward. And I gave up on scribing because it just doesn't look very good, and I'm not the best scriber, and I'll have to figure it out. And you'll see here on the wings, I did do a little bit of scribing along the flaps and the ailerons to recreate those when the modification was made. And you'll see there's some putty there I got to clean up where it slipped a little bit. So other than that, The wings look really good, and I'm pretty happy with the final look. So those are going to be able to get on to being painted soon. The color scheme for this is the same as the Hurricane. So I'm going to try to paint the Lincoln and the Hurricane at the same time. Green and brown on the top, black on the bottom. The only difference is the Hurricane has half black, half sky. But if I can get those two painted up together at the same time, it'll make my life a lot easier. Now, if you see here, it's a large aircraft, and it's going to be hard to work on when it's all together as one piece. And I got to figure out how these wing seams look. They're not looking too bad when I hold the wings in place, but I'm going to have to see if I can paint the wings separate and assemble at the end, or if I'm going to have to glue everything together and then paint. Or I'm not sure yet. I'll have to start playing around with it. The horizontal stabilizers are going to have to go on at minimum, because it's going to dictate where the paint demarcation lines come out. And then the vertical tails I can put on after, because they're just painted black on both sides. But I think the wings and the horizontal stabilizers will have to be glued on first, clean up any seams, then do the painting, and just live with it as a big, ungainly aircraft. It's just, I don't have a lot of space, and it's very, very large. And I'm getting into building more larger aircraft, and I'm running into this more. Most of the builds I've done for the past few years have been smaller. So that's going to wrap up kind of looking at the model progress. Hopefully by the end of July into August, I will have everything ready for paint, and we can take a look at some of the time lapse, the part 1 of the time lapse for all of these builds. And then moving on as we go through into the next month and moving on, we're going to have a lot of content coming out. As I said, I was at Quinte, so I've got the Quinte International Airshow videos I've got to get done up. I've also got the Canada Day Fly Pass. I'm going to try to get that up. I'm going to try to get that content up as soon as possible, hopefully in the next couple of days, versus waiting a few weeks. And then, regular scheduled content is still coming out. We've got the RCAF history video coming out. July 15th is 434 Squadron. And then we'll continue doing those with one a month. I should be finished those RCAF Squadron videos by the end of 2025. I know that's a long-term look at things, but that's kind of the plan. And then I've got more air shows throughout the summer, these time-lapse builds, and I have a few more ideas for some traveling to get out and see some things. So we'll see how all of that pans out. And it's the video goes on a little longer here, but as I'm narrating this after the fact, there's really no point to continue watching the video if I'm done. So on that note, I am going to wrap this video up here. Thank you all for watching. If you do have any questions, comments, concerns, please put them down below. Reach me on Facebook, all that fun stuff. And we will see you all next time. And there's me telling you to like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell if you choose. So we'll wrap it up here. Thank you everybody for watching. We'll see you next time.